Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second Fireside chat session on affordability. In the last session, we spoke about trends in buy now, pay later. The topic of today's conversation is how affordability drives growth in business. In the last session, we heard a banker's view on the impact of affordability in the ecosystem. Today, we'll hear a merchant's view on how various financing options have helped increase their business. I have with me today two very young professionals from an even younger company known as Wakefit. Wakefit was founded in 2016. They provide quality furniture at a very reasonable point. My first guest today is Mr. Yash Agrawal, who is the head of alliances and partnership. Yash has over 12 years of experience working with multiple tech companies like BookMyShow. My second guest is Mr. Sumit Datta, who is the Assistant Manager for Growth in Wakefit. Sumit comes from a marketing and alliance background with overall experience of 5 years. He works closely with Yash to grow the payment ecosystem at Wakefit. So, Sumit and Yash, a very warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you,
It's
Nitin.
a, it's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So before we dive into what affordability means to you, I think to the audience here, I would like you to tell something about the company Wakefit. I mean, what is it? What do you do, and so on.
We started our company in 2016 with mattresses. We realized that India as a market needed quality mattresses at the right price point because there were so many players who were, not being able to provide those kind of quality, and prices needed to be rationalized. Where we found a market, and we worked towards it. We did the research and we launched amazing mattresses. And we focus a lot on the quality with respect to our manufacturing capabilities, our manufacturing units, by obtaining the machines from Germany. And so we've been mindful of our quality and the price since the beginning, because of which we are able to organically grow and reach the spot where we are currently.
That's interesting. Yes, I mean, I think we should definitely try it out. Quality furniture at a reasonable price
For
point.
sure, for sure, you should. In fact, during the pandemics period and during 2020, we in fact even pivoted towards furniture. And
Okay.
very recently, we've got the information that we are also getting into kitchen, furniture as well.
Okay.
That is something very interesting, because at the pace where we are adding SKUs and categories, I think it's a very enthusiastic environment, not just in our organization, but I think it's an entire category in the country. I think there are so many interesting products with good quality being available in the country, which were not in the previous few years.
That's very interesting to hear. Nice. So now let's dive into our topic of today, that is affordability, right? So when we talk about affordability, before I give my perspective, I would like to hear your perspective, because I know for a fact, because we're working together, that you are using various affordability form factors that are available as a payment option on your website,
Right.
right?
Right.
So why don't you explain to our audience what does affordability mean to you as a merchant? What is the benefit both to you and to your consumers?
Right. So by the term, it suggests, affordability is how we look at it is making things extremely simple and affordable for our end customer. We have realized that, especially and the kind of products we are selling, it's also a very essential product. At the same time, just one second. At the same time, it's relatively not. It's relatively beyond 20,000 rupees or 15,000
Right.
rupees, which makes it not so easily, the reach of so many customers in the country. Where affordability comes in picture, where how does a merchant come up with interesting solutions to enable these transactions and to help the customers to allow them to purchase these essential items in today's today, and not having to wait for it in future. And that's, I would say, a very simple definition of how we've come up with. I mean, keeping this purpose in mind, we've tried to come up with interesting solutions, partnered with interesting brands and service providers, and try to ensure that how we keep things very transparent and simplify for our customers.
Nice. Sumit, over to you.
Yeah, so as Yash just mentioned, affordability by definition offers a whole suite of financing option to our users, and that is for a brand in a category like home solutions in a market like India. We feel that it is always essential that if we want to think from a user's perspective, we need to offer these kind of payment solutions as well.
Right.
What we have seen over the past couple of years is that adoption of credit instruments are on the rise. People are looking for more affordable options to buy these large ticket size items that would hurt their pocket if they are to make a straight up purchase of. So yeah, affordability as a whole suite of offering has been a boon for all merchants. I would say that is there in these categories, in categories like travel and hospitality, where the ticket sizes are a lot higher. But yeah, that's my perception that affordability comes with a lot of uh, added advantage, not only to the end consumer but also for the merchants as well.
Right.
So we have
Yeah, go ahead.
also noticed. So we have noticed one thing is that in for people who have a fixed inflow every month. For example, somebody who's a salaried customer, and he has a certain budget every month to service his essential requirements, which may not be in his immediate reach. For example, if somebody's wanted to purchase a good quality bed, or maybe his entire furniture, if he's able to remove and maybe assign a certain amount every month, and he's able to very successfully service these EMIs at the same time, he can also plan his next purchases. That's what we've
Right.
realized is, even after the entire cycle of EMI is finished, he's comfortable and used to removing and allotting that kind of budget on a regular basis, which helps him plan his entire finances, and in fact, not having to affect his financial health as well in the near future. At the same time, purchasing those essential items which he wishes to. That is something which is very interesting when we talk about affordability as a piece, where how do we ensure that customers' financial health is also maintained, at the same time he's able to enjoy these benefits and grow his life, have a good life at the same time.
Right. So you touched upon the benefits to the consumer, right? I mean, how you rightly said, Yash, that affordability gives them a perspective that monthly installments are going,
Right.
and it eases down on their budgets and the pockets and all. But I would really want to hear one particular aspect, like how does it benefit the merchant? And one of the views that we have as a company why affordability is important is that it helps you upsell, right? I mean,
Right.
so let's say I'm a consumer, I have a budget of say 10,000 rupees to buy a mattress, but there is something else which I find, which is better quality, and I would want to buy that, but maybe my budget doesn't allow it, right? But
Right.
because affordability is there, I can afford it, right?
Right.
So, would you want to speak a little bit about that? How does it affect your sales per se because these options are enabled?
So, like I said, that when in 2020, when we launched furniture category, it was, we launched sofas above 30,000 rupees as well, where our mattresses were selling around 10,000 plus, or maybe something around 10,000. So we realized that for the customer to, add a sofa in his cart,
Right,
it will only be possible when we enable that for him in a very
correct,
simplified way.
right,
So we saw an uptake and a rise in GMV because of interesting financial solutions. Like you said, that I think it not only helps in upselling here, but also kind of conversions in
right,
Wakefit, where customer, if he could decide the moment he browses on the website, and to immediately purchase and not necessarily postpone his purchase to the next month or maybe at a later period. So helping him convert into like in today's time is more important for us to let him go and then come back later, right? And we understood that even if there is a price to assign for that, I think it's worth it.
That's quite interesting. Yes, I mean we've always been thinking of affordability as a means to upsell. That's a benefit for the customer. But yes, conversion is obviously more important, and you are giving that tool at the last checkout page to the merchant, to the customer, right?
Right.
That here is what you wanted. Maybe it's a little over your budget. This is the option for
Right.
you to go ahead and take it.
Right.
Interesting. So, my second question was, and I think Sumit touched upon briefly. See, when we talk about affordability, there are various payment options within affordability, right?
Right.
So we've always had credit card EMI, which is a more mature and stable product. Then debit card EMI was launched in somewhere in 2017.
Right.
We've always had cardless EMI. Cardless in the EMI is where we partner with NBFCs, and their pre-approved base is made available. And of late, in the last 1 or 2 years, net banking EMI has gone live, and the latest and the hottest trend is buy now pay later, right? So I just wanted some sense on how are you seeing the trends, right? I mean, so many payment options. What do customers choose from, and what are they doing now? What do you think will be the trend, maybe 1 year, 2 years down the line? If you could throw
Right.
some light on that.
I'm only hoping that the customer doesn't end up getting confused
Yeah, I
after seeing
agree.
so many ways, payment methods in today's day and age. But let me tell you, and let me throw some light on that side as well. See, I think I believe that every service, whichever is there in the market today, it's there because it's required in the market.
Right,
It is addressing a certain concern, because of which they are present in the market and they're growing as well. Um, and Here it's credit, right? So we have to understand that there are so many factors where upon which customer is having an access to credit, which revolves around his credit score, which revolves around availability, his regular flow of income. There are so many things which go about in determining his credit score. So for someone, and also their kind of speculation towards a particular service, where somebody is not very comfortable in a certain way of transaction, maybe certain mode, then there is something else available for him as well. And maybe, and for every age group, right? We have seen new age companies who are providing buy now pay later services. They are catering to, say, students, who somebody, credit cards, they are catering to salaried people. I mean,
right,
on a regular basis. So I think, looking at the demography and the kind of customers we are having in a growing economy like ours, I think variable and various solutions in financing. I think it's amazing to see how we have evolved in this fashion.
right. Sumit, your take on this? I mean, I
Yeah,
think we've
just to
worked
add to
very
what,
closely with you. So
correct.
you know the numbers, and
Yes.
while we don't want to scare off the audiences or whatever, I think what I'm looking for it is that there may be some form factor which is a dominant share, but how do we
Hmm.
really get the others to come into mainstream?
So yeah, to add to what you're saying, Nitin, obviously credit card being the most dominant product and the oldest credit product in the country is the most dominant in terms of users using it for transaction as well for us. But that being said, credit card only has a 7 to 8 crore user base in India.
Correct, correct,
Its penetration, although is good in the tier one and the top cities, but if you look at it from a overall perspective, there is still a
correct,
huge pool of audience who does not have access to easy credit. That is
correct.
where I think these other platforms such as debit card EMI, because debit card having a much larger base than credit card, this ensures a larger credit dispersal happening for the Indian market. Debit card EMI, you also talk about buy now, pay later options. You also talk about all these NBFCs coming up with important and interesting solutions to basically evolve the customer and bring about more usage of these products. So yeah, that being said, I still think credit card will remain the dominant force in the market because of the kind of backing it has from these larger institutions and the government. But then again, in the coming 1 or 2 years, I do see a decent rise in the buy now pay later platforms that are coming up, because the kind of audience these guys are targeting, the kind of user base they are looking to tap into, are the ones that credit card have generally overlooked.
Right.
That
Correct.
is where I think these guys have a better ability to take up that market share. Similar thing is happening with debit card EMI, which is why these banks have gone all out and are now coming up with more interesting credit-based products for these users. So debit card EMI is definitely one thing that is picking up pace in the market. Although it's been a couple of years since it was launched, but I see it being used full-fledgedly only in the past 1 or 2 years. Net banking EMI is also something new, relatively new in the market. And I was also in talks with a couple of banking folks that I've been in touch with. They also mentioned something around UPI OD facility, which will be coming up
Yes.
very soon by the leading banks. So we can understand that banks are also pushing and making credit accessible to the users, not only from a consumer standpoint, but also from a merchant standpoint, where accessibility of these credit becomes very easy.
So,
So yeah, uh,
very interesting, Sumit. I mean, I want to stick on a little bit more on the debit card EMI part because the buy now pay later is something that we discussed in the last session also. Now, debit card EMI. See, you said credit card EMI. Credit card. There are around 7 crore credit cards out there in the market, right? But whereas debit card is concerned, there are 90 crore debit card holders in India. Now, out of all the banks that issue debit cards, there are around 10 to 12 issuers who have launched their debit card EMI functionality, and others are also, I'm sure they're going to follow up soon. But even amongst the issuers who have launched the debit card EMI, so the way it works is that obviously, unlike credit card EMI, where every credit card customer can convert a transaction to EMI, every debit card customer does not have that luxury, right? So the banks decide which set of customers, depending on their civil score and balance and everything, do the pre-approve. So that concept of pre-approval is there. Now, the pre-approval is something that still remains a challenge because many customers who are there who have a debit card but they are not pre-approved by the bank. And the other bigger challenge is of awareness, right? Even those who are pre-approved, they are not aware how to use it. So, any word from any question open to both of you? How can we really scale up debit card EMI through this awareness, and what role can you play and what role can the entire ecosystem play?
So, to answer that question, I think it's important to understand the history behind it as well. So, the overall concept of EMI and breaking the payments into several tranches, it actually came from the West. In
Right.
Western economy, where the people were very comfortable in using EMI structures towards their essential items, and even not just essential items, even very high ticket prices, and so there the economy is running very well on EMIs, right? Whereas in India, it is more savings based.
Right, right.
In
Absolutely.
India, we are taught that don't take loan, avoid taking loan, and rather spend only that kind of money what you already have. So and understanding the when India realized that this has been sort of a blocker, the mindset has been sort of a blocker to be able to increase adoption of EMIs. We launched debit card EMIs. Telling
Yeah.
the customer that you need not take a loan, but you can actually service the EMIs from your money in your bank account itself. So you don't need a loan for that. But it's very interesting and important to understand is that there has not been a lot of education around that.
Correct.
There's not
Correct.
been a lot of people are not talking much
Awareness.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
awareness around it. In fact, even the new age players like buy now pay later companies, and there's so many companies who have recently launched. So what is happening right now is that they are launching some very interesting product and great services, but it's very important to understand is that these will only be of use when the customer takes it in the right spirit and understands that maybe for example a very nominal fee to convert their payments into a EMI tranches is reasonable because it's more operational costs. And also it's very important for the merchants, like you said, that how can we do it? How we can do it is to be able to ensure that we have the right set of partners with us. There is much transparency on our platform, and keeping in mind the customer's interest at of utmost priority and at the pinnacle,
Yeah.
which is where which seems to be I think it's our fiduciary responsibility in a way, where we take care of customers' interest in terms of no hidden charges, no conversion costs, and ensuring that customers are aware about the processes well in advance. I think
Right.
that's yeah.
Also, just to add to what Yash said, knowledge and the marketing, the promotional aspect of it is one thing which is very important. I feel because not a lot of people in the market have that knowledge around availability of debit card EMI. Plus, also what I think is similar thing happened when credit card EMIs were launched way back when it came out live.
Right.
A lot of people were still apprehensive around paying the interest that was being paid. So converting that into a no-cost EMI is what helped scale the entire infrastructure initially. Something similar happening with DC EMI also will help help solve this problem. This will be a solution from a merchant's perspective largely, but yeah, this has to be solved to a greater extent to increase the adoption as well.
Great point, Sumit. So that was going to be my next question. And Yash, you also talked about that. See, EMIs generally, at least maybe in the Indian context of things, people have tried to stay away, right? Because there is an interest component. And which is one of the reasons why, at least in the consumer finance industry, the concept of no cost EMI has come up, right? Which is not there in any other vertical, right? I mean, you talk about home loan, car loan, personal loan, customer has to pay interest and they are used to it. But when you talk about consumer finance, right, when you are purchasing a product like like a mattress or a phone or whatever, there, I mean, at least in the electronics world, no cost EMI has become very popular, right? Where the
Right.
merchant or the brand subvents the interest cost on behalf of the consumer. So that has
Right.
really helped EMI or affordability become very popular in the electronics world, right?
Right.
Because most
Right.
of these large brands, right, whether it is CD brands, whether it is mobile brands or laptop brands,
Right.
they have been subventing interest for a long time now, and which is why consumers have also adopted. Now the jury is still out on non-electronics brand, and I'm glad that Wakefit has also enabled no cost payment. But I would like you to ask to ask you some a question around that, right? How have you seen your sales increase post enablement of no cost EMI? And maybe even if it hasn't, what do you think is the future? How it will go from here, right? The no cost EMI or brand EMI.
Right. So interestingly, before that, I'd like to tell you that after the COVID period, or maybe during and after the COVID period, we saw a 500% increase in EMI transactions in urban cities, and over 220% increase in tier two cities as well. So one is that people are realizing the advantages of an EMI facility. No, when it comes to no cost EMI, of course, the only way we can support is that when if people are accepting that and using that service is where we understand that people are seeking that kind of service from the merchant where no cost EMI is being absorbed, is being considered into play. And so what we are understanding is that we have enabled a 3 month EMI and a 6 month EMI as well. But we are also looking into initiating, say, maybe a 9 month or maybe a 12 month EMI as well. But it's very interesting to understand, and also for the customer to understand, is that this can only be sustainable up to certain time. Eventually it has to be eventually it has to be a participative effort, a collaborative effort where we put in some bucks, and then you also are able to understand and make it a low cost EMI in the overall scheme of things, where the merchant enables and takes a step in you having to purchase an essential item for yourself, and then you also are able to partner with us and maybe go for a 9 month or maybe a 12 month EMI. I think I'm really jumping into the future. That's like you asked me about how the future holds. I think that's how it's going to be sustainable and very healthy for the merchant as for the customers as well.
Right. Sumit, your take on no cost EMI?
So, no cost EMI has been another very viable product offering for all merchants in the market. This is something that has helped push conversions also. More importantly, what I think is that being a growth guy at an e-commerce company, I think our major focus is to understand how we can influence user behavior. That is one primary key factor that we look to always have an impact on. And I
Right.
think EMI as a lever does that very wonderfully for us because the perceived value of a product changes when an EMI as a form factor is introduced. Similarly, being in a very cost conscious market that we are, given how Indian consumers are currently, no cost EMI is that step change that helps the adoption of EMI to increase.
Correct.
We saw a decent number of users jumping and using the no cost EMI options once we launched it way back in, I think, 2018 is when we went live with the no cost EMI options. And it has worked really well for us. Not only have we seen larger number of users adopting it, but what we have also seen is that people tend to upgrade their buying capacity and buy better products or buy more products as well when these kind of financing options are introduced. So that sort of overall helps the merchant as well.
Interesting. You know what? But what we have seen while lot of merchants in non-electronics world, right? Like furniture or be it edtech or travel or e-commerce, merchants have adopted. The larger merchants have adopted no-cost EMI, but the democratization is still pending, right? And
Mm.
I see, I understand that it is a cost, right? It is a cost, but I think it's more like a marketing expense for the merchant, right? To
Right.
get consumers. And yes, you spoke about, we need to get the customer to pass the finish line, right? Conversion is important. Maybe no cost EMI is that one, as Sumit said, right? Step change to get the
Absolutely.
customer to convert. But what would be your message to the merchant community? I'm not talking about users because users will definitely go for it. Merchant community who are reluctant, right, to adopt no cost EMI, thinking of it as a cost when really they should see it as a tool to augment their business and sales.
So it's a very interesting question, Nitin. We have to understand is that in today's world where we are seeing a 6.5 to 7% inflation, right? I think our primary focus should be how do we enable sales on our platform. I think, and we have seen the advantages of no cost EMI month on month and year on year,
Right.
um, which with tangible results, right? So it's very interesting to understand and reprioritize our marketing budgets
Right.
into direct enablement on the platform rather than I'm not kind of deprioritizing or removing focus from the branding or marketing side, but it's very important to envelop and absorb this cost into the overall scheme of things,
Correct.
in a, because this rationalizes the entire expenses because we are seeing direct conversions and tangible results. So I think it's very important to recognize that this cost for no cost EMI is can be very well absorbed if we just kind of reprioritize and understand the overall unit economics of every product.
Thank you very much for saying that. I mean, I'm sure that will definitely help. We have this product called Offer Engine, right, which we have recently revamped and launched, which helps merchants like you configure a no-cost EMI as well as run offers on top of that. Now, I know that you've been using it, so just wanted a, quick opinion on how has your experience been on while using it. What do you think some of the improvement areas are where we can work on it? That will help you.
Great.
Sumit?
So, yeah, Nathan, we have been using PayU's offer engine for the past more than 2 years now. We've been running issuer offers, different types of offers, and we've used the engine to do a lot of tech interventions that would not have been possible at our end. So, the dashboard not only helps us in running the offer smoothly, but it does a lot of things for us in terms of technical abilities that a normal e-commerce company would not have as a inherently in their system, right? So we've been able to run a lot of issuer offers thanks to PayU's offer engine, and that has sort of helped us, going in the coming next month as well. Not only has it reduced the bandwidth constraints at our end, but it has also helped us to go live with offers seamlessly in a very short turnaround time, which is again a very important factor once you look at it from a issuer perspective or a perspective of a user you being able to use the offer. So yeah, Offer Engine has been a wonderful product. It has been something that we've been using for a while, and In terms of suggesting changes, there's been a lot of suggestions that has gone into it already. But a couple of things that I would add is to make this entire offer engine to be such a full-fledged offering that it drives the entire discounting model of a D2C brand. I think a lot of D2C brands right now are playing the discounting game. It is very important to have that notion that you're giving out a product at a very discounted rate to the user. And discounting is a very important factor for any D2C brand that is looking to eat up the market share right now. So, and if you look at it from a product level, we all have a bunch of SKUs, right? It ranges from anywhere between a few hundred, goes up to all the way up to 10,000 plus also as well, right? So having that kind of an engine where you're able to make changes to the prices on the go and have it live and do some form of experiments as well, just to see how users are reacting to it, would be a good add-on.
Okay.
Is what I feel.
Great, great. I think that was an interesting conversation. Yash and Sumit, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I really enjoyed. Couple of key takeaways, right? One is that affordability is at the center of things. It will really help. It really helps the merchants increase their sales, make those conversions and retain those customers. And obviously, it helps customers because it is lighter on their pocket. It gains loyalty. And then we also spoke about various EMI form factors. Credit EMI has already been there. Debit EMI training and awareness are needed to scale up. And finally, we spoke about brand EMI or no cost EMI, right? The importance of brand
Right.
EMI in the overall scheme of things. So before we wrap up, any last message to the audience that you may want to
So
give?
I think I'd like to particularly thank the entire PayU team and you, Nitin, for making out time and being a veteran yourself. I think it's very important to understand the need of the hour, which is educating the customers and the merchants and the overall ecosystem is where I think you guys have kind of spearheaded that and you guys took the topic of affordability, which is extremely important in today's day and age. And I think kudos to you guys for having organizing this.
Thank you so much, Yash. Anything from you, Sumit? Any?
No, it was a pleasure attending the session, Nitin. Has been very helpful for, I think, both of us, where we sort of got into such dialogues. I think this kind of sessions are necessary for the user also to understand, and the
Yes.
merchant also to get a sense of things, how things are moving,
Right.
how to solve critical business level problems with these kind of offerings that all banking institutes and NBFCs are coming up with.
Great. Thank you so much, Yash and Sumit. Once again,
Thank you.
pleasure to have
Thank
you
you,
here.
Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.